In a small town nestled in the valley, where the mountains stretched out into the horizon and the rivers wove their way through the landscape, there lived a young boy named Tim. He was 10 years old, with curious mind. His grandfather, Joe, was a retired train conductor, his back slightly hunched with age, and his face adorned with deep wrinkles that told the tales of his many years. Tim and Grandfather Joe had a unique bond. They spent every weekend together, exploring the countryside and discovering new adventures. Joe always carried a small notepad in which he would scribble down thoughts and sketches of the places they visited. Tim loved flipping through the pages, imagining the stories behind each drawing. One Saturday morning, Grandfather Joe came over with a surprise for Tim. It was an old map, yellowed with age, with a series of X marks scattered across it. "Tim," Joe said with a smile, "this map belonged to my father, your great-grandfather. It leads to hidden treasures around this town. I thought you and I could find them together." Tim's eyes sparkled with excitement. He could hardly believe his luck. A real treasure map. He hugged his grandfather tightly, then ran to his room to grab his backpack. They set out on their journey, with Grandfather Joe leading the way, his cane tapping lightly against the cobblestone streets. Their first stop was an abandoned train station on the outskirts of town. Grandfather Joe told Tim stories about the old days when the station was bustling with travelers and goods. They found the first treasure hidden in a hollowed-out brick, a small pocket watch that had stopped ticking decades ago. "Your great-grandfather's watch," Joe said, placing it in Tim's hands. "It's yours now." As they continued their journey, they followed the map to a forested area near the river. Grandfather Joe spoke of the times he and his father would fish in these waters, catching trout and telling stories. The second treasure was a silver fishing lure, still shiny despite its age. Tim pocketed it with a grin. The final stop was the top of a hill overlooking the entire valley. The view was breathtaking, with the town below and the mountains in the distance. Grandfather Joe sat down on a large rock, breathing heavily from the climb. Tim found the third treasure hidden under a small cairn of stones, a leather-bound notebook filled with sketches and notes from his great-grandfather's time. "These are his memories," Joe said, flipping through the pages. "He used to bring me up here when I was your age. We'd sit and watch the sunset. This is where I learned to draw and dream." Tim looked at the drawings, fascinated by the detail and the stories they held. He hugged his grandfather, feeling a deep sense of connection to his family's past. As the sun began to set, Tim and Grandfather Joe sat on the rock, watching the sky turn shades of orange and pink. They talked about the future and the adventures they would have together. Tim knew he would cherish these moments forever, and he was grateful for the bond he shared with his grandfather. When they returned home, Tim carefully placed the treasures in a special box, vowing to keep them safe. He knew that one day he would pass them down to his own children, along with the stories and memories they held. Grandfather Joe watched him with a smile, proud of the young man Tim was becoming. He knew that their journey wasn't just about finding treasures, it was about the bond they shared and the legacy they would leave behind.